The only thing better than having it all is having a storyline with Sutton to keep me on the show. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm Raphael and I'm here to review episode 6 of The Real Housewives Who Continue Crying Over and Over and Over Again of Beverly Hills. But before that, I wanted to share a mini story time of something that happened a couple days ago. So I was at this place, I was out and about, I was walking and I see somebody and I'm like, wait a minute, is that who I think it is? So I do a double look and I'm like, it is. So I'm looking at this person and guess who it is? It's the one and only Lisa Vanderpump from The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She is a former housewife on the show and I'm like, wow, that is Lisa. So you know me, I started shaking. I'm like, what? That is Lisa. That is really her in front of me. So she gets on this escalator and I also have to get on this escalator, right? You know, the escalator that moves you up to another floor by itself. And I'm like, uh-oh, I'm right behind her and it's just me and her. And I'm like, should I say hi? I don't know. I don't want to be too much. I don't want to be too intrusive. But I'm like, whatever, YOLO. So I'm like, Lisa, you know, she's like 2 steps ahead of me and she turns around and she's smiling and I'm like, hi. I'm like, whoo, it just all happened so fast, everybody. I was just like, hi, Lisa. I was like, I'm a fan of you. I watched you on the show, The Housewives. And I don't know what she said again. I just wasn't processing this whole moment and this whole interaction. Because again, it was just happening so fast. I just didn't expect it to happen. And I forgot what she said. So I was just like, can we take a selfie? And I think she said, yeah, of course she did. Because then we tried to take a selfie. It came out blurry. And I'm like, oh, absolutely not. Like, I'm not about to have receipts of this moment. And it's going to be blurry. So then I was like, wait, can we take another picture? And she's like, yeah, but can we get off this escalator first? Because we were reaching the top of the floor and we were about to fall over because we weren't paying attention. So we get off and we took a selfie and I don't know what happened after that, everybody. I mean, I wish that there was a much more elaborate story of our interaction because I feel like my body was physically there next to Lisa, but my brain and my mind was just somewhere completely else trying to process this whole situation that happened literally within like maybe 9-10 seconds, maybe 7 seconds at most. She was nice though. She was a lovely person. She said hi. She was willing to take the selfie with me twice because the first one, it was already blurry. We almost fell over on each other on the staircase. But that was the cute little moment. Then when we got off it, we took the selfie and the selfie came out nice. I'll post it right here. And what else about her? It was one thing hearing her voice and her accent on TV and online, but it's a whole other thing in person. I'm like, wow, this is really Lisa D. Vanderpump. And what was so interesting is that 2 days later, I also ran into her again. This time she was with her husband, Ken. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to act like a groupie. I'm not going to say hi, like, oh, I watch you on TV, nothing. I just said hi, and that was that. Because I'm like, oh, she's probably going to think like I'm stalking her. And that's not the case whatsoever. Ken, I was so tempted to go up to him and be like, can you just please scream, goodbye, Kyle, just one good time for me? We start the episode off the following morning in Mexico and we see Kyle calling up Mauricio to see if he still fulfills her emotionally. And then we see Erica in her room and she's getting her glam done. And I'm like, wait a minute, Erica, just a second ago you were crying about how you couldn't afford new clothes or you had no money. All of a sudden now you could afford to bring your entire makeup squad from California to Mexico to have them stay there with you for a couple of days. I mean, I'm not understanding where the money is coming from. Unless you went the cheap route and you have your entire makeup squad staying in the same hotel room as you and it's like 5 people to 1 bed. 2 people on the balcony sleeping, 2 people on the floor, and 1 person in the bathtub. That's the only way I can see you affording it. But I mean, I don't know. You tell us your secrets because, I'm curious to know where the money's coming from. Moving on, she continues on and she's just like, well, no, I'm not downsizing when it comes to glam. I'm sorry, but glam is an art to me. So I've downsized a lot in my life. I'm just not doing it with glam. Besides, I'm on a payment plan and it's fine. My glam squad is going to be paid off in a couple of months. And I'm just like, well, all right, Erica, if you could afford it somehow, then fine. So then we move on to the beach. Everyone is reuniting by the beach to have breakfast and the table is there along the ocean. I mean, everything looks beautiful. The sand, the ocean is hitting the sand, the sky is blue. Everything about the whole scenery was nice. Everybody's getting there one by one. The Reet was the very last one to show up and then she ruined the mood for like 5 seconds because of course somebody, I'm not sure who asked her, which by the way, you really need to stop asking her how did she sleep because we're always going to get the same stop story. They're like, oh, so the Reet, how did you sleep? How was it? So you know the Reet deep down inside, she was just like, yes, here we go. Okay, here's my moment. All right, let me get started. I was hoping for this. Okay, let's get it going. How was my night? I'm sorry, but it's just,
I was having a lot of anxiety because I just kept thinking back to what happened to me and everything that happened with the robbery and how me and PK, we set that whole thing up. Like, it was just so good. I mean, the whole thing was not a setup and it was really tragic what happened to me and everything. And I did get stolen a lot of stuff from my closet. Yes, but I was having a lot of anxiety and I was actually debating if I should just go back home to Bubba and to my kids, because my babies, they need me. And so does my Bubba, and that's just, I couldn't bear it.
And I'm like, Dorit, enough already. Just take your ass on the plane and head back to Beverly Hills. You should have never came on the trip. If anything, the only person who should be sad on this trip should be Lisa Rinna, and that's because her mom just passed away. And the other person that should be sad is Erica because she has no money. But Dorit, enough is trying to convince us this whole story happened and that is true. Like, enough already. We're like, what, episode 18 already? And you're still going on over and over and over again? Then they move on. Erica, she's just like, azúcar. Everyone's looking at Erica like, Erica, what's going on here? Why are you acting like this? This is so not like you. So Erica confesses that she's been taking antidepressants. Why? Because of everything that she's been dealing with emotionally and mentally because of the situation that she's been put through last year with Tom and the money scandal. And I'm like, oh, so that explains it because Erica has been acting a bit off this season. And she's always wanting to interject in something or jump into something that doesn't concern her. And she's always just been there in the background, typically just not really saying much, but she's been a little bit more engaging this season. And I'm like, oh, so that explains it. She also goes on to say, well, I am having a good time though. I have been trying to keep happiness, because every night, every day I used to wake up last year, I will be so depressed and sad. And now I just wake up and I'm still depressed and sad because I have no money. But now it's a little bit different, because I'm having sex. I'm having a lot of sex and I'm having a good time with my friends. But most importantly, I'm having a lot of sex. And I'm like, okay, Erica, okay, we get it. You're having penetration. She goes on to explain how her behavior used to be a little bit too much. And Garcelle, she jumps in and she's like, oh, so your behavior isn't bully-ish anymore? And I'm like, ooh. Look at Garcelle. Look at producer number 2. Good job, Garcelle. Erica's just like, oh no, I am a bully. You know what? It's funny that you say that, Garcelle, because they actually pointed that out to me in courtroom and they said that I was a bully. But you know what? Why not? Why can't I be a bully? Women are only allowed to be just there on the sideline. I'm not. I'm going to be a bully and I'm going to take that title with pride. And I'm looking at Kyle, Lisa, and Dorit and I'm like, okay, so your friend just confessed that she's a bully. Anybody's going to say nothing? Nobody's going to say that that's mean or cold-hearted? Nothing? Nothing? What about you, Kyle? No? Dorit? No, I don't want to hear about your stop story. Nothing? Lisa? Nothing? How interesting is that? But if Sutton was to say, oh, I think I'm going to be a bully and I'm going to take it with pride. I think I'm going to label myself as a bully. Kyle will be down her throat like, how dare you? How dare you be a bully, Sutton? Like, that is so mean and cold-hearted. We are not bullies in this group. But because it's Erica, they stayed quiet. But all right, so then we continue. And then she goes on to say that because of her behavior, she should become a lawyer because she has this cold demeanor. And then I believe it was Kyle who was like, oh yeah, maybe you and Sutton should study together because Sutton, she jokingly wanted to be a lawyer too, so why not? And I'm like, look at producer number 1 trying to make a scene so early in the morning. Like, can we get through breakfast first before we decide to fight? And then Erica's just like, oh yeah, Tom, he was actually the grader for the bar test. The lawyers, they have to take a test called the bar test. I'm not really familiar with that. And I love the little laugh that Garcelle and Sutton did to each other. Garcelle was just like, huh? Like, he took a test. He graded tests. And then she looks over at Sutton and Sutton laughs and Garcelle's like... And I'm like, yeah, Tom should not be doing any of that. But okay, so then she tells Sutton, Sutton, yeah, we should study together. I'll help you out. And Sutton, I'm pretty sure that Sutton's response was all of us. Because Sutton was just like, okay. Like, okay, Erica, we could move on from this conversation. And then Lisa, they go on to talk about her and how she's been feeling. Again, she's the only one that should be feeling some type of way, not you, Dorit. And then Lisa goes on to say that, she went through a psychic. Psychic said that her mom is going to come to her in a sign of birds. And she said that, when she woke up, that there was a bunch of birds outside. And I'm like, well, we are in Mexico. We are outside on a tropical place. So, I mean, there's going to be birds. But okay, so let's continue. So she also said that she saw a painting with birds on it. And then she looked into a bag and there was birds in it. And then it was just birds all over the place. And it was like a sign that her mom was watching over her or around her. And I also believe in things like that. I do believe in little signs like that. So I'm glad that that's her little way of finding peace with the situation with her mom. And then they did another cute toast to Lois once again. All the women head inside the water and they all start having a good time. They start swimming around, splashing each other. It was just such a nice time to see them in the water. And it just reminded me that I need a vacation because they were just having such a good time. And I want to have a good time too. But then they decide to take a surfboarding lesson. lesson. And I must give them all their credits for even standing on the surfboard for at least 2 seconds in the water before the waves just knock them over, because it takes a lot of balance. And I don't think I've ever done the whole surfboarding thing. I mean, I've done paddleboarding, but that was different because I had a stick to hold on, and even then I still lost my balance and fell in the water, but it was longer than 2 seconds, so can't relate to them. But then they decided to get out. And then I find that half the group went shopping, and then the other group, they decided to stay at the beach. I'm like, was this calculated? But okay. So then we have, I believe it was Kyle, Dorit, Sutton, and Garcelle. They get in the van, then they head to this boutique, and there's a bar in front of the boutique. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. Imagine, that could be dangerous though, because imagine you're going shopping, you're completely sober, right? You're going shopping, you're like, ooh, maybe I should get a drink before I go shopping. Next thing you know, you're like 5 drinks in, and then you go into the store and you're like, I want to buy everything in this bitch. You go in there thinking that your account is like $100,000 or whatever. And next thing you know, it's like decline, decline, decline. Then they go inside the boutique to shop around, and Dorit in her confessional, she's just like, well, finally, I'm in my element. There's nothing that a little retail therapy won't fix. Everything in my life recently has just been falling apart, and I've been feeling so many things about this robbery situation, and I just feel like shopping will make me feel much better about everything in my life. And I'm like, wait a minute. So all it takes is for you to go shopping in a store in Mexico, for you to get over the whole robbery situation and everything that you've been feeling these last couple of episodes? If anything, with the way Dorit has been talking about this robbery and how traumatized she is because of it, I would assume that she wouldn't want to put herself out there in that lighting of, oh, look, I'm in Mexico shopping around for expensive things, and I'm going to take these expensive things back to my home in California, where there's a possibility of who knows who's watching this episode looking at Dorit like, okay, so she got more expensive things from Mexico. Okay, maybe we should rob her house a second time. I would just think that she would want to be a little bit more discreet or a little bit more secretive about the way she moves or spends her money or what she's shopping for. Because again, who knows who's watching the episode, but I know that life doesn't stop and she has to go on in the future and go back to, shopping around in the public eye. But again, for now, I would just think that she would want to be a little bit more, under the radar. But I guess that's that. So then they go into the boutique. Sutton, aka Sutton Strack, aka Sutton Stacks of Money. She goes inside the boutique and she's like, you know what? I think I want to buy the most expensive thing here. And it's a ring. I mean, the ring was nothing impressive. It was nothing cute. It was nothing like, woo. It was nothing to cry about, right? But the ring, it cost, I believe in Mexican currency, it was $100,000. And I'm like, what? All that money for some raggedy ring? Like, absolutely not. All I would need is a ring pop and I'm happy with that. But Sutton, she buys the ring, and at first I was impressed because I'm like, wow, that is a lot of money. But then when you convert it to USA money, it's only $5,000. And I'm like, really? $5,000 for a ring? That's it? Sounds broke to me. Sutton, as soon as the cameras were down, she was probably like, yeah, the ring is so nice. It's so pretty, right, Kyle? Yeah. I can't wait to take it back to Beverly Hills with me. Are we done filming this shopping spree scene? We are? Are you sure the cameras are down? Are you sure? You promise? You good? Okay. Can I return this ring, please? Back over on the beach, we have Lisa, Crystal, Erica, and Dirty Diana. And Crystal, I'm just so disappointed in you. I mean, I was trying to see it from your perspective these past 2 episodes, and I still am to a certain extent, but I'm just so disappointed that you allowed Erica Jane, out of all people, to put a battery pack on your back and turn it up to 100, because Erica goes on to tell Crystal, I just feel like you really need to defend yourself against Sutton, because Sutton is relentless. She's going to continue coming at you, and she's going to continue attacking you and filling all these bubbles in for you, portraying you as a terrible person. She did the same thing to me last season, and I'm just not allowing it, and I'm not going to allow it with you this time around. You need to defend yourself. I don't give a fuck about what the truth is. You need to defend yourself and find a backbone. And I'm like, so Erica, your whole point right there is invalid, because you just told Crystal, oh, you need to fight against Sutton. You don't care what the truth is as long as she has a backbone. So then what's the point of fighting against Sutton if the truth doesn't matter? So Erica, just be quiet. Again, for the 4th time this week, I'm telling you. Crystal, she goes on to cry and she gets emotional. And I'm like, come on, Crystal. I mean, you do know that both Erica and, and Lisa Rinna, they do not care. They see this as a moment of opportunity. Like, oh, wait a minute. She's being weak. Let's move in a little closer. Dirty Diana, she's confused. She doesn't know what's going on. She's just like, la, 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 money. she doesn't really care about what's going on. I'm like, why is she on the show again? And Crystal, the more I'm seeing of Crystal this episode specifically, the more I'm like, why is she still on the show? I mean, I had so much high hope, but I don't know. She's just been just all over the place. And again, I still don't want to count her out completely because her allegations on Sutton of this dark comment, it gets a little thicker because now we have this girl going viral on TikTok because of her video. So if you haven't seen it, this girl goes on to say that she used to be Sutton's daughter's best friend. And she says, and I quote, she says, me, when I cut off my high school BFF of 5 years, aka Sutton's daughter, because her mom, Sutton, was a racist to me, and now she's a real housewife getting called out for being a racist. And her response is, my white daughter had a Chinese friend on TV. And I'm like, ooh. Well, the plot thickens because I'm assuming that she's alluding to that story that Sutton explained to Crystal when she was just like, oh, I had a Chinese friend, a black friend, and a redhead girl all in the pool. So that's the story that this girl is talking about. And I'm like, that's why I don't want to count out Crystal's story completely because who knows if this girl is telling the truth. You know what I mean? It's all alleged. I'm not sure. Erica, she continues to fill up Crystal's head and just making it seem like she's on her side. And I'm like, she's obviously not on your side, Crystal. But Crystal doesn't care because Crystal, we all saw last season, she was trying to fit in with her, the Reed, Kyle, and what's her name? Who am I missing? And Lisa. So badly. She wants to be part of that clique so badly. So I'm pretty sure she's willing to drop Garcelle and Sutton just to join the majority because she thinks that they're probably the cool girls. And the worst part is that she knows it too because she goes on to say, is Erica being swayed by her opinion on Sutton because of her issue with Sutton last year? Yeah, probably. Do I care? No. Because Erica, again, she moves in a little closer like a shark because she's seeing her tears and her tears are probably like blood to her. And she's like, oh, so Crystal, do you want to come with Mama Erica? Come with Mama Erica. And I'm like, absolutely not. Mama, nothing, because I'm not going with you. But Crystal, she goes along with her. They go to the bar. Crystal starts crying over and over again. And I'm like, come on, Crystal, seriously? Like, your husband did not make the movie The Lion King for you to be falling for her antics. Like, what are you doing? If I was him, I would be so disappointed. Meanwhile, back over with Garcelle, Dorit, Kyle, and Sutton, they're also trying to put a battery in her back too. And I really wish that Crystal and Sutton, they will meet up privately away from the group, like all together, you know, because every time they're together, somebody's always trying to sway their opinions. But I wish they will meet up privately and be like, you know what? I think this cast is trying to pit us against each other and trying to pull our strings, and they're doing the dirty work behind our backs and we're just not seeing it. And I wish they would just be like, you know what? Let's team up and try to take them down together. Like, imagine the biggest plot twist if it was Sutton and Crystal versus Garcelle and Kyle. I mean, I don't know. I could kind of see Garcelle maybe turning on Sutton and then joining forces with Kyle. Will y'all still be Team Garcelle if she was to join the other group? I mean, I don't know. I don't see that happening because Garcelle has common sense, unlike the rest of the women on this show. But we also find out this is another red flag, Crystal, on your part, because she goes on to explain that her 14 friends have dropped her. And I'm like, 14 friends? What did you do, Crystal? Like, 14 friends is a lot of people to be cutting you off. I mean, obviously you're the issue in those friendships because, I mean, I could understand maybe 1, 1.5, 2, maybe 3, but 14, that is a very specific number. I was with Lisa Rinna too. Like, I don't even have 14 friends to be cutting me off. Like, that is insane. But I mean, who knows? Again, I just feel like Crystal is full of shit, Sutton is full of shit, and Erica Jane is full of shit. I feel like everybody is full of shit, and I'm not believing anything. Then we get Kyle back in her room and she FaceTimes Erica and she tells Erica, so what's been going on? What happened at the beach? Erica goes on to explain, well, I mean, everything was going well, but then Crystal, she started crying out of nowhere. She kept crying and crying and crying and crying. We had 3 margaritas and she was still crying and crying and crying. Like, she just cried the whole entire afternoon. And the way her and Lisa were describing that whole situation with Crystal, it was very mean girlish, like very high schoolish vibes. Like, oh yeah, what a loser. She was crying, what a big baby. Like, they were poking fun at her by laughing at her. Kyle is like, wait, what happened? What do you mean Crystal was crying? Please tell me everything because I'm the producer. So Erica's just like, yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure. I mean, I think she was crying because, she was crying. She was crying. Tom flipped his car five. Lisa. Why was he? Why was she crying again? Lisa, she has no clue. Erica has no clue. And I'm like, you see, Crystal, you see how you fell into their trap. Specifically, Erica, they didn't care about anything that was coming out of your mouth or what you were feeling or any emotion that you felt in that conversation or the fact that you were crying for hours. They only cared that you were going against Sutton, who is Erica's enemy and possibly Lisa's enemy as well. They're all meeting downstairs for this dinner that they're having. And the looks that stood out to me was Kyle. Kyle was ready for the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City reunion with those feathers that she had on. I'm like, is that Meredith for a second? But she looked so good in that turquoise outfit, that like baby blue outfit, whatever color she had on. It looked really, really good. I believe the next one, Sutton, I loved her dress as well. Garcelle, I loved her entire look. It's definitely, it reminded me of something that Celia Cruz, the singer that she's now passed away, that's something that she will wear. I love the whole entire look, especially the little rose in her hair. And then who else? Diana, Dirty Diana, she didn't look dirty for once. She looked really, really pretty. She looked like a Greek goddess. I loved her entire green look that she had on. Lisa Rinna, she looked like mistress of the vampires. But I loved her entire look. And then we have Erica. Erica, come on now. This is the second week that you missed, and I know that you have it in you, but then again, maybe you don't because, you know, the budget's not there. But the outfit, I'm like, what are you wearing? Like, where's the rest of this? Like, I was trying to look, and I'm like, maybe I'm not seeing. Like, move the camera angle or something. I can't see the whole outfit. But no, it was just some raggedy shirt from Target, and that's it. I'm like, that's it? I mean, and then Lisa Rinna. You see, this is what I said a couple episodes ago, where Lisa Rinna will eventually betray Diana because she brings it up out of nowhere. She's like, oh, so how's everybody? How's everybody? So let's talk about the book. Let's talk about the husband. Let's talk about the book, Diana. You have a book called Room 23. Let's talk about it. And I'm like, wow. Because everything that followed that, I'm like, okay, Lisa, why would you want to put your friend on the spot like that? Diana, she's obviously uncomfortable. And I'm like, wait, what book is she talking about? So apparently there's this book called Room 23 where there's a bunch of naked people or naked women in the book. I didn't look it up specifically, but from the description, from what I saw, there's a bunch of naked women in this book that Diana, she's a part of. She published this book, and I'm like, wait a minute. So this is an even bigger red flag from the allegations that we heard about Diana prior to this season coming out. Diana's like, no, I really don't want to talk about it right now because it wasn't a really good thing that happened because I spent so much money and time, and it didn't really go anywhere, you know? So I don't really want to talk about it. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry, Diana, that's not a good excuse. Why now? Why didn't it go nowhere? What do you mean you put so much time and money? And like, I just don't understand it. And then in the confessional, the producer asked Diana, so Diana, are you like a sex trafficker? Are you a madam to high-class prostitutes? And I'm like, wait a minute. I was about to fall over. I'm like, wait a minute. I was not ready because I was not aware that they were aware of what we knew as an audience about Diana. Diana, she did not deny it, nor did she say no. She was just like, that's a very crazy thing to put out there about people, you know, because then, you know, the ball gets going and then people start believing it. You know, no. But she didn't deny it. And I'm like, wow, that is red flag. And I hope that Lisa does eventually turn on her. The waiters begin to walk around the table, cleansing it with some sage. And I'm like, okay, they're getting rid of all the evil spirit, the bad vibes, the negative energy. We're going to have a good night, right? Wrong, because as soon as they were done, Kyle, she was just like, so what did everybody talk about at the beach? And I'm like, Kyle, can you just give it a second? Can you at least let everybody order a drink first before we dive into the drama? But then Erica, all of a sudden, she becomes the third producer. And she's like, wait, so Sutton, let's talk about what happened between you and Crystal. Because we were just talking about it earlier. We talked about what happened last night and how you accused her of 14 friends dropping her like a fly. So Crystal, you need to stick up. Sutton, you need to close your mouth too. You're doing way too much when it comes to Crystal. Crystal, come on, speak up. You need to speak up. And I'm like, now who died and made her the host of anything? But Crystal, she is quiet, and Sutton is just like, okay, so Crystal, like, tell me what's going on. Like, what happened? Why are you talking about me? And, you know, Lisa, Rinna, and Erica, they have so much to talk about. You know, they could be talking about Erica's legal issues or whatever, but they choose to talk about me, and I'm like, ooh. Well, I mean, she's not lying, but then Crystal, she opens up her mouth slowly. And something about Crystal that I'm noticing that I'm not sure if it's part of her manipulation tactic or maybe this is really how she is that she puts on that baby voice and she plays the whole, oh, please don't hurt me or say too much about me. I'm not a mean girl. I'm not doing anything bad. Like, why are you being mean to me? I don't like that. I'm like, can you just please say it with your chest or like with a backbone and stuff and stop doing the whole baby act? And she's just telling Sutton, I just feel like the whole rumor thing that you brought up about me and the 14 friends thing, I think that was pretty mean. And I'm like, oh, please, Crystal, like, come on. And then Erica, again, she jumps in being the producer and she's like, yes, Sutton. So can you please explain and elaborate who told you that rumor about Crystal losing 14 friends? She's a very good person. That is not true whatsoever. So Sutton, and she's just like, well, I mean, the people that I have heard that rumor from, they're not here at this table right now. So I'm not going to repeat or say who it is. And then Erica, she actually made a good point. She's like, so then why are you bringing it up if nobody's here at the table? If you're not going to talk about it, then why are you bringing it up? I mean, the same thing could be said about Crystal. Why is she bringing it up about these whole dark comments that Sutton made when she's not going to say it either? So you could make the same argument, Erica, to your friend Crystal. But again, since Crystal is on your side and she's against Sutton all of a sudden, you're not going to go against her. So, and then Crystal, she's eventually like, okay, you know, I just really don't like my character being taken out of context like that. Like, you don't even know the full story about that whole situation. And it's just crazy to see their friendship just fall apart within our, like, before us. And I'm like, wow, Lisa Rinna, she's just smiling because she's loving it. She knows this is exactly what her and Erica wanted. Sutton is just like, okay, well, I'm going to apologize for that whole rumor situation because, again, I kind of did the same thing that you did about me back to you. So I understand that. I could tell that that's wrong. But I need you to say that you are not going to talk about me in a negative way or make up any type of rumors to my face because I want to be friends with you. And then Crystal, she's just like, I understand, but that was not okay with Sutton. Sutton was just like, no, that's not understanding. You need to say it. You need to say it. And honestly, I mean, even though Sutton had a good point in this whole scenario, if I was Crystal, I wouldn't say shit because you're not talking to me the way in that condescending voice that Sutton had. Like, I need you to say it. I'm not saying anything that I don't want to. Even if you do have a point, but in this case, I mean, Crystal, yeah, you should just say it, but not in that tone, Sutton. I mean, I understand you're getting pissy because everybody's coming at you, but, you know, relax, tone it down a bit. So then Erica, she jumps back in again, and she's just playing hopscotch at this point. She's like one leg in, one leg out. I'm like, relax, like, it's not about you. Garcelle, she notices that, and she's like, you know what, Erica, you're really bugging the shit out of me. And then Erica's just like, wait, why? What's going on? What did I do to you? Garcelle's just like, you keep interjecting yourself in this whole situation, and it has nothing to do with you. And Erica's just like, so why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I be a part of this? Garcelle, she just rolled her eyes. And I'm like, Erica, I've been telling you for like weeks now already to just stay out of things. And you don't listen. Now Garcelle's telling you. Garcelle in her confessional, she made a good point by saying, well, yeah, last season was all about Erica. You know, Erica was being dragged all through the mud. So now that Erica has some space and some room, she wants to be in everybody's business and she wants to come after everybody else as revenge. So I can definitely see that that's exactly what Erica's doing. Next thing you know, Crystal's just like, well, I mean, at the same time, you want to be friends with me, but you also said that you hate me. So I also need you to, like, you know, take that back. That also sets Sutton off. And Sutton is just like, no, I never said that. No, what you will not do. And that whole finger situation, I'm like, ooh, these women are better than me because the second that anybody's finger is even in my face, it's being ripped right off and thrown right into the ocean for the fishes. Absolutely not. So then Diana, this is where she jumps in and she's like, I did hear that, Sutton, that you did say that you hated Crystal. And they even played it in the flashback that yes, Sutton did say, I do like you, Crystal, as much as I hate you. Now, I'm not really sure what she meant by that, or if she was just joking, or maybe she just forgot or whatever, you know, but Sutton, she's just like, no, I said that I hated what you did. I didn't say I hated you as a person. And Diana, again, she's sitting right next to Sutton, and she's like, no, there you go again, being clumsy again. There you go again, being clumsy again, Sutton. Like, no, that's not what you said. I was there. I heard you. And Sutton is a better person than I am because the second that Dirty Diana would have even inserted herself into the conversation, I would have been like, skirt. Wait a minute, Diana. I know you're not trying to give your 2 cents in on something that doesn't concern you between me and Crystal. Let's talk about your book. You know that book that you didn't want to discuss 10 minutes ago? Let's talk about it. So what is it about it that you don't like? What is it about it that makes you uncomfortable? And honestly, Sutton, you have so much ammo when it comes to Diana. You could easily just show up to the reunion with her book in your bag and take it out very dramatically and be like, you know what, Diana? Can I have your autograph? Can you autograph your book? Yeah, here you go. Sutton, she's just getting pissy because now she has Lisa kind of being against her, Erica coming at her, we have Crystal going at her, and now Diana's coming at her. So she's getting overwhelmed and she's getting more and more heated. So I could understand why her tone will go up even higher. Now, if I was Diana, would I allow her to talk to me like that? Absolutely not. But Diana, she's just like, no, I don't understand what you're doing, Sutton, because again, you're contradicting yourself. You're saying that you're this, you're that, but here you are. I heard what you said last week, and now you want to say that you didn't say it. So then Sutton, she's just like, I am a very good person. And honestly, Sutton, you really need to drop that, because the more you say it, the more I don't believe it. Because who in their right mind says, oh, I'm a good person, who says that about themselves? I mean, the more you, the way I see it is, if you have to say that about yourself, it's most likely that it's probably the opposite, but who knows? So she continues telling Diana, I am a great person. I am a very, very, very good person. So Diana's just like, do I have to listen to this? You already said this. You already said this. And Sutton is just like, yes, I'm going to constantly repeat myself. And Diana, she just kept poking at her, and she was just like, do I have to listen? I'm like, oh shit, Diana, relax. Like, you're sitting right next to her. And you know, this woman, who knows, she might spiral out of control. And she's getting louder and louder and louder. So eventually, Erica jumps in and she's like, wait. Sutton, you're putting your finger in her face. And I'm like, now, Erica Jane, I know you're not the one talking about, oh, you have your finger in your face. Exhibit A. What is this? Is that not you? That's you. Yep, this is you right here. That was you last season. And that finger was directed to Sutton. So now all of a sudden that's too much for you? No, like, stop it. Like, Erica swears that we forgot everything about her last season. No, we remember. This is why you need to be quiet on the show. So then Sutton, she starts losing it a little bit. And again, she's getting overwhelmed. And she's like, you know what? I'm not doing this. I'm about to break. So she gets up and she walks away. And then Kyle, she follows back, which I was actually impressed with Kyle this episode, because she was just like, no, Erica, everything that you're doing at this table right now, you're only doing it because you don't like Sutton. You and Lisa, both of you don't like her. So I'm calling BS. I was shocked, because usually she'll just go wherever the wind blows when it comes to Erica or Lisa. So she follows Sutton and she's taking her back. I believe Sutton, she starts like kind of like hyperventilating, I believe, in the back. Like, she's trying not to cry. I don't think she cried, but she kept it together. But speaking of crying, back at the table, we have Dirty Diana. She starts crying, and I'm like, what are you crying about? She starts blaming it on, oh, you know, I'm hormonal, I'm on hormones, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, if you knew that, then why jump into the conversation and to begin with in the first place? I mean, whose problem is that? I mean, what, I'm supposed to just stay quiet just because you're hormonal? Absolutely not. She goes on to say, I can't believe she would yell at me like that. I have never been yelled at like that. And it just goes to show you that her money is probably the only thing that shields her from somebody actually coming at her. So that's why I was here for Sutton doing what she did to her. Diana goes on to say, oh, you know, I was just trying to fix the whole situation. I was just trying to help. How dare she talk to me like that? And I'm like, where were you trying to help? Like, these women are constantly gaslighting us and manipulating us to make us think that they're doing something else, when in reality, we see them for what they are. Like, Diana, stop it. Erica, she's sitting there and she's like, it's okay. Are you okay? Are you okay? Dorit, she's talking to Diana. This is so hilarious. She's talking to Diana and she's just going on and on, you know, another long-winded conversation. And then she notices Diana crying, but she notices like 10 minutes into the conversation. And she's like, oh my God, are you crying? Erica Jane, she's like, it's okay. No, I understand. I understand completely the whole situation with Sutton. No, I get it. I love you. I'm your best friend. I love you. So Diana, she's just like, I love you too. Garcelle was all of us, I'm pretty sure. She was like, oh, come on. You two are not serious. Stop. This is a whole joke. I'm going to eat my artichoke. Like, seriously, I love you to each other? Stop. I really wish, if anything, Garcelle would have turned it up just a little bit more and would have said, stop the bullshit, Erica and Diana. Cut it out. Like, You know, I know that Garcelle versus, what's her name, Erica, I know that's coming in the future. And this was probably like just a little preview of what's to come. So then Sutton, she eventually comes back. She tells Diana, I'm so sorry for going off like that. I didn't mean to. I was just, it was just too much. Obviously she was breaking because everybody was coming at her. Lisa and Erica, again, mostly Lisa, she was just smiling through the whole thing. And I'm like, wow, Lisa, given what you went through and you're over here smiling at somebody else's pain, like that is not cool. And then Diana's just like, no, it's okay. It's fine. No, it's fine. You did what you did. It is what it is. It's that. And, they sit back down and did we really get anywhere? I don't think so. And that was that, everybody. What did everybody think about this episode? Are you team Crystal or are you team Sutton or are you team confused? And did you also see that TikTok that I mentioned earlier that's going around viral talking about Sutton and how she's a racist? Do you believe it? What do you think about it? Let me know your thoughts on this episode down in the comments. Bye, everybody. Mwah.